1000, the Vikings in Leif Erikson. Then in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. 1507, we could be United States of Vespucci. America sounds much better to me.
If you just introduce yourself and tell me what you do.
My name is John Thurman, and I teach at Providence Academy. This is my 26th year of teaching. My wife and I met when I was at UT. She lived in Johnson City, went to ETSU. I ended up transferring here, and I couldn't decide on a major, and so I decided to take time off. And then she graduated, started working as a hygienist, and I went back to school. Got a degree in communications, but really didn't have an avenue of a career. Teaching was the last thing on my mind because I was introverted. Over a period of years, I taught Sunday school, and I had a friend who had decided to go back to school to become a teacher. I just kind of decided after being a Sunday school teacher, thought that maybe I could do it. And so I started the program at ETSU. Got a Master's of Arts in Teaching. Started teaching at Providence soon after that. Up until 3 years ago, I was the math teacher, science and history teacher, and I taught Bible to my homeroom. And 3 years ago, we had to switch things up as the school grew, and so I had to give up a subject. And because I'd done so much work with the history and science, with music and things that I'd done with it, I decided to give up math, but then I had to take on literature. So I guess with the math, it's a little easier to see where someone doesn't understand something and then they come to understanding. And then when you try to walk them through and help them in that way, I guess I do miss that part of it. There is a joy in teaching students when they don't understand something and helping that light come on to understanding.
I hated math. I hated math so much, and he taught math. But I always looked forward to going to his class because I knew that we would do the singing. And I was like, okay, if I can get through math and learn just a little bit in math, then at the end of class, we'll get to sing some songs. And I thought that that was really cool.
Will the circuit be unbroken? Will a charge flow by and by? A closed circuit has a current when it's got a good power supply.
I think that naturally I kind of lean towards where music just kind of comes to my mind, but the school I teach at, Providence, is a classical Christian school. And so the whole structure is that at the younger ages, it's called the grammar stage. At this stage, students really grab on to memorization, and it kind of just fit with the way that the school operates as far as with the classical methodology, that it just fit, and it's actually the way that we're supposed to teach. So I don't know, just a natural bent for me in that way, and then the school kind of has that mindset, and it just kind of came together. I think the first year I taught 6th grade, and I was just trying to get my legs under me, and I was teaching different subjects. The next year in 4th grade, when I started teaching history, is probably when it first started. I think the first song was just something that was in the book. Jacques Cartier tried to find a waterway, but he did 3 things instead, and then they listed the 3 things, and it just became a song. It just was right there. It just kind of made itself.
Jacques Cartier tried to find a waterway, but he did 3 things instead. Furs and friends with the Indians, and a new world claim for France.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but when we start history class, I have I didn't come up with this. This was the history department came up with, but we recite this little saying. I could say it from memory, but I'm just look at it. It's we study history to know and understand God's plan for man, to appreciate what man, with God's help, has accomplished, and not to repeat mistakes that man has made in the past. And that's not all of it, but that's a big part. I think as citizens, we need to know about our history. We need to know about our government. And so I think it's important. And I like to be able to be at the forefront of helping students be introduced to that. And hopefully they'll have a good experience with history and want to engage in history, because history is important.
I always had incredible grades in history after 4th grade because the things that I learned in his class just stuck with me. And it also made me really interested in specifically U.S. history. Like, the things that I learned in his class stuck with me still to this day.
when students start in fourth grade, I usually have the conversation that, well, everybody really likes history. Of course, they'll come in and say, well, have maybe a negative attitude towards history, but I said, well, history is just stories, and everybody likes stories. And even when you disagree with that, you think, well, wait, is there a movie you've liked before? Do you like reading? If you think about all those things, they're stories. And so it's just a matter with history is finding those stories. History is not boring, it's exciting. And often stories that happen in history, true stories, are more fascinating than the stories that we make up. We have a timeline song where we got together as a history faculty years ago, and we decided fourth grade would have so many dates that we were going to have us to learn, and so I just decided to put them to a song. And so when they get to eighth grade, this is kind of like a skeleton they work off of.
I remember the timeline song, maybe not all of it, but I remember the beginning, and it started with the NAD 1000 Vikings and Leif Erikson. That's what I remember. And so there were a lot of memorable ones, and it was definitely a lot more fun to learn history as someone who probably doesn't favor history as my favorite subject, but I loved it. I really enjoyed learning through his music.
There's 21 dates. It starts with NAD 1000, the Vikings and Leif Erikson, and it ends with 1959, Hawaii became a state. We do teach through the 80s, but typically it's at the end of the year, so it's not something I test the students over. We just kind of cover it, but we pretty much go just right after World War II.
World War I, well, it began because a teenage Serbian killed Francis Ferdinand, who was Austro-Hungarian. Wow, World War I.
There's probably a little over 40, but a lot of the songs are very short songs. John Cabot, He Made a Claim song, it's really short.
John Cabot, he made a claim, made a claim, made a claim. John Cabot, he made a claim for jolly old England.
I'm not a very gifted musician. I know a few chords. When I first started, I was making up my own tune typically, but as I went on and did some research as well, typically I would take a song, maybe a familiar song or a song, maybe kids today maybe don't know, but more children's songs, and put them to those tune or a familiar tune to make it easier to remember. Probably my favorite songs are songs we don't even sing anymore that I made up with my own tune, like the Planet song or the Skin song. The Planet song was my own tune, but it was essentially taking an old acrostic, "My very energetic mother just served us 9 pizzas." And I wrote that song right after they decided that Pluto wasn't a planet. So it's got a little humor in it, well, to my dad joking kind of thinking in it. But yeah, it's just to help students remember the order of the planets.
Mercury and Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. Now you say Pluto's not a planet. The scientists had it all wrong. That's okay, I understand. I'm just not changing my song.
Sometimes things come quickly, sometimes there's a lot of tweaking, always trying to make it better if I can. Again, my purpose is different than a typical songwriter because my objective is to help students remember information. It's trying to work around that. Like I think about the insect song that I've did for years. We had just one verse, and then as time went on, realizing, oh, they're still not knowing this, so I would add another verse. I can remember as a young kid coming up with songs. I remember my mom not listening and coming up with a song and saying, my mom doesn't listen. It's just kind of silly. It's just always been with me, I think. Sometimes songs just kind of come out. It's not like it's a talent as far as that I have a talent in singing or anything like that. It's just that the music just kind of comes at times. My middle son, when we were doing the Explorers, he said, why don't you do a song for Drake the Dragon? And I thought, well, I guess I could. And that song was a song that came pretty quickly because he said Drake the Dragon, and automatically the tune of Puff the Magic Dragon came to my mind, and that song came pretty quickly.
They called him Dragon, he sailed upon the sea. He raided gold from Spanish ships and took it to his queen. Drake, they called him Dragon, Sir Francis Drake was he. He raided gold from Spanish ships and made England happy.
It's interesting that through our school I had an opportunity to teach all three of my sons. Logan, who is the oldest, is 28, and I can remember driving to school, it was just me and him, and then it was me and Luke and Logan, and then it was our youngest Levi, and then slowly it was Logan graduated, and it was just the three of us, and then it was just the two of us, and then I'm back by myself again. Having children helps you get a different perspective on learning and what you're teaching and how that's going. I enjoyed teaching my sons. I'm glad that they were able to come through.
Washington, Adams, Thomas, Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Jackson, Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, Tyler, Polk, and Taylor.
Probably the most talked about song is a song that I didn't really write. It was a song that's kind of anonymous. I don't know who wrote it, but I've had to tweak it, and it's the President song. I guess because in high school they have to know the presidents, and it's a fun one because once you learn it, you can sing it really fast, and you can make it kind of fun that way. I don't know what the favorite song is. I think you'd have to ask the students that.
I think my favorite song, I kind of have a two-way tie, and I can still remember both verbatim. So definitely the Continent song to the tune of like the ABCs. I really like that one. I can still remember the whole thing. Another one that's really helpful for me, just in terms of memory, is the President song. I mean, just the way that like the names are kind of laid out, it really helps you. Just, I mean, even if you know like kind of what all the presidents did, just to kind of have them in that order, it's extremely helpful. And I think I still remember it verbatim to this day. I could sing the whole thing.
The President's one, really that one. It's like a party trick because it's so ingrained into my head where I'm like, hey guys, I can name every president.
Definitely the presidents. I still remember all of them to this day, and even last year in my AP US history class, I was able to recite it in front of the whole class for extra credit, just because I remembered that song.
Probably like the one that like comes immediately to my mind is like Vasco da Gama, Hey Your Mama, She Was a Portly Gal, and Sir Walter Raleigh lost his colony. And you know, there's so many more. You know, maybe if I had a little more time, I could think about more of them. But those are the two that really come to mind.
Probably the Explorer song, the one, you know, where it's going, DeSoto, Canyon, he to see. Yeah, that one.
Probably the Vasco da Gama one, because I remember my dad liked that one too, so we would sing that one in the car together. Vasco da Gama, Hey Your Mama.
Vasco da Gama, hey your mama, was a portly gal. Vasco da Gama, you were from Portugal. Vasco da Gama, to India you went, around the tip of Africa you were sent.
The whole purpose for me is to help them to remember information. Sometimes it's frustrating because the students can have it in their memory, but there's also an aspect, especially the younger learners, to be able to pull it back out. You'll ask a question and they'll look like they don't know, and then you'll kind of say, remember the song, or you start the tune, and they go, oh yeah, and they can do it. I guess I've always been interested in memory, especially as becoming a teacher, how people remember and how you can help people remember. And I guess that's a big part as I look at it, is always trying to find ways to help students remember. I wish I had more time to go over the songs. You know, we go through the curriculum pretty quickly, and so if there's just more time to review, the more time they can sing, the more times they can remember it. Just teaching for a long time, you know, things change for yourself, being a teacher. Also, I'm getting older, and so it's been longer since I was a kid myself. It's just kind of funny. I'm finding myself where I'm probably having more problems remembering stuff. I don't know if it's just age or what. But I think memory is very interesting, and so I've always been engaged with trying to find ways to help people remember information.
Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. Violet comes last 'cause God made it so. Roy G. Biv, everybody should know. His name is the Order of the Rainbow.
You know, I think everybody wants to be liked. I think as a young teacher, that could be part of the problem. You get so concerned about being a friend to your students. As I've gotten older, I still care, and I want the students to like me. You want to be liked. I guess in your mind, you want to have an impact on your students. You want to to have that thought or have that said about you. But as I really think about and ponder a legacy, it's not as much about what the students think about me, but that I effectively point them to Christ, and that they don't look at themselves, or that their image of themselves or the way they see themselves isn't based on their performance or what they can do, but they would truly understand that God loves them just the way He made them, and they have a purpose and He has a plan for their lives. And that the success in life is not how much money they make. It's not about any fame they might gain, but it's, are they living out their lives to please the Lord? That's the most important thing.
Drake, they called him Dragon. He sailed upon the sea. He raided gold from Spanish ships and took it to his queen. Drake, they called him Dragon. Sir Francis Drake was he. He raided gold from Spanish ships and made England happy. Drake, they called him Dragon. He sailed upon the sea. He raided gold from Spanish ships and took it to his queen. Drake, they called him Dragon. Sir Francis Drake was he. He raided gold from Spanish ships and made England happy.